think a savvy pie maker is one that definitely isn't afraid to try things.
A lot of people are afraid of making pie or they don't want to give it a shot, but really it's not that hard. It just has a bad reputation, I guess. Hi, I'm Melissa.
And I'm Emily from 4 and 20 Blackbirds.
And this is how to make the perfect pie crust. Today we're making 4 and 20 Blackbirds all butter pie crust. To start with, we're going to measure out our flour. We just use regular all-purpose unbleached flour. You add some salt. Got to have salt for flavor, and then we're going to add sugar. It helps aid in the browning process. Now we're going to cube up our butter. You want to use butter with the highest fat content you can find. Now we're going to use this tool here. This is a pastry blender, and we're going to just press down into the butter. You'll know you've reached the point where you want to stop blending the butter when it starts to look a little like cornmeal with some larger pieces of butter still remaining. At that point, you'll want to start adding your water. And we add a little bit of apple cider vinegar to our cold water. The apple cider vinegar adds a little bit of tang, and it also helps tenderize the crust a little bit. So it's one of our little secret ingredients. You don't want to add too much water to the crust, otherwise you won't end up with a nice flaky texture. Once a dough ball starts to form and it starts to hold together, you can turn the crust out onto the work surface and start to form it into a log. Cut it in half and shape each half into a flattened disc. After the crust has chilled for 30 minutes to an hour, prep the surface with a light sprinkling of flour, and also rub a little flour on your rolling pin. I'm going to start right from the center and press out, and then stop a little bit before you get to the edge. Just let up the pressure, and you don't want to roll all the way off the dough because then you'll end up with a thin edge. Continue rolling the crust until it's about 12 to 13 inches in diameter.
So Melissa covered the basics of making our pie crust and techniques for rolling out. Now I'd like to show you how to handle the dough for a double crusted fruit pie. In order to cut lattice, you would start with your rollout. You can use your rolling pin as a guide to help your line stay straight, especially if your pizza wheel is a little wobbly. So just trim off the ends and then cut however many strips you like, but aiming to keep them all about the same size. We like to use metal pie tins for fruit pie. Generously butter the pie pan, center the crust, and gently press it down into the corners of the pan and along the bottom. A teaspoon of flour to a teaspoon of sugar, and coat the bottom. And then you can place your fruit filling in, evenly distributing the fruit and pressing it in. You always have some excess juice that comes off of the fruit as it rests with the filling, but you want to add some of that back. Don't go overboard, but you don't want your pie to be dry. Start with the longest strip of lattice. Place it gently and take shorter strips for the edges. And then it's very simple. You just fold back the center one and add to the middle, and then fold back the opposing pieces on lattice, and the same here. So you're essentially weaving on top of the pie. And at this point, we're ready to crimp the edges for a fruit pie. There are different techniques you could use. You could trim it tight to the edge and egg wash to seal, but we like to create a substantial crust edge, and we do that by rolling inwards. Because of the gluten that is formed in pie crust, if you don't do this nice and tight, it can sometimes unravel in the pie or in the oven. And then crimp. For this technique, you can't really get your hand in like this. It's a little trickier, so I like to use my thumb and pull in with my index and thumb. So now the pie is ready to bake. Just give it a nice egg wash for a golden color and bake it 45 minutes to an hour depending on the filling. I think both Melissa and I fell in love with the process of pie making. It's definitely challenging to create a good pie. I won't say that it's extremely easy, but it's certainly something that people shouldn't be afraid of.